Hello, everybody. I am Dan, and welcome to the Comic Shop News Channel. I am joined, as always, by my co-host Tessa, and we are joined by our friend Fire Guy Ryan from Comic Tom 101. And you can get his book January 24th coming out, and it's
Didn't waste any time.
Listen, I got to get it all out of the way, and our guest just dropped out from the backstage.
Yeah, that was actually the interview. I was hanging out earlier. Didn't you know? That was it.
Okay. So really honored to be joined by our guest. I'm a huge fan of his work. Tessa is his #1 fan, and Ryan and I created a bond over one of his titles that actually got us talking as friends. And let's get ahead and introduce him. Mr. Phillip Kennedy Johnson. Hello. He's in a blackout, everybody.
And he looks beautiful. Wow. Gorgeous.
Welcome to my best side. How are you guys?
I'm loving it.
Better now.
So you disappear. Okay. I was like, uh-oh. Here we go.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. And I'm going to kill the camera I'm not going to tempt fate any longer. We'll just go to the little nub face there. Anyway, hello. Good to see you guys. I'm sorry it's not both ways, but we're up.
For anyone who doesn't totally appreciate you coming on.
Dude, yeah, of course, man. I'm sorry that we don't have power here, but it's great to be on the show, and thanks a ton for your kind words about the books.
To be honest, I found you right before lockdown. I was in my LCS, and things were starting to get a little nutty with the paranoia of the plague going around. And there was a book on the shelf that looked like nothing else I had seen. It was a fantasy book, and this beautiful cover by your partner, Riccardo Federici, I believe it's pronounced.
Yeah.
And to open the book and see that the art matched the cover was just amazing. And then this deep lore you built, and this was a book I was like all through. I was going, why is nobody else reading this? Come on, this is great. And anytime I meet someone who likes the book, we all like instantaneously like, it's great, isn't it? It's great. And
thanks, dude.
You got me
so
back.
Much.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, so much love went into that book. It's insane. It's a really intense process for just a ton of for like every reason. I mean, the editor was every bit as much into it as we were. It was the editor's idea.
Mark Doyle.
Mark Doyle was in charge of Vertigo. It began as a Vertigo book, and then it became when Vertigo shuttered, it became a DC Black Label book, and that was Mark Doyle's purview. But the one who actually encouraged me to pitch an epic fantasy horror book was my my editor, Ariana Torturo.
Oh.
And Ariana reached out to me like, "Would you want to do a book in which, like a horror book in which there's in a world in which there's like wizards and shit?" that was the way they pitched it. And like, well, I mean, you guys are gonna do it? I mean, like, if this is DC, like the last fantasy thing I think I saw you guys was like Warlord. And they were like, I think we can do it, man. I mean, it's so we talked about what it might look like, and just kind of put it together. But they brought in, man, Ariana was just instrumental in getting that book together. They brought in a fantasy cartographer who had done stuff for like Wizards of the Coast and stuff.
Oh, that makes sense now.
Yeah, they brought in, God, who else? They ended up bringing in, later on, they brought in Dan Telfer, who was head of a prominent D&D podcast called D&D Beyond, I think.
Yeah.
To help craft the mechanics of the gameplay for the source. Like we did like a 5th edition source book for that thing. Yeah, it's in there. Exactly. Got tons of illustrators to do like concept art and character sketches and monster creations. But yeah, the vast majority of the art was done by Riccardo, and Riccardo was just born to do this shit. I mean,
100%. Yes.
Yeah, we were talking about who to approach for this. And when Ariana mentioned Riccardo's name, I was like, dude, can we get Riccardo? Like if we can get Riccardo, that's the list. Like it's and initially we were talking about getting actually 2 different artists, one for the 30 years later arc and one for the 30 years prior arc.
Ooh.
Which would have been cool. But when we got Riccardo, we were talking like, who could we get? Like, who's going to stand up against? Like, who's going to do the other half? You know, Ricardo's just going to clown everybody, like for this particular style. You know. So we asked Ricardo to do the whole thing, and he did it. Yeah, that book, man, that means so much to me. I just saw Ricardo again for the first time since pre-COVID. He was at New York Comic Con, and he wants to do more, man, and I do too. So
I was going to ask. I was like, when are we going back to Fellspyre Chronicles? Like, I finished reading it, and it was just as good the second time around, except I got to drink it in more and all the lore. And then I started thinking, how long did it take him to create this whole backstory and universe? It had been cooking for a while.
Actually, not as long as you'd think. When they asked me to do it, I mean, it's hard to put a number on it because a lot of the train was being built as it was running, you know. But if we had to put a number on it, I'd say probably 6 months worth of world building and fleshing out the backstory, and because I kind of took this approach of trying to answer every question with another question, because I mean, real life is not like I just didn't want to make another fantasy world in which everyone speaks the common tongue and everyone fits cleanly into these various species or classes or regions, and it's all super easy. There's no mention of religion, or there's only one religion or maybe two. God, what else? Like there's no real difference in architecture based on race or region or anything. I really want it to feel like a real place, like the world we live in, you know, like there's actual language is dirty and complicated, and you know, different cultures rub off on each other, and I wanted all that beauty and realism in the book. So trying to think of an example. There's I was trying to describe, I was building out the city that they were in, and I was trying to make it clear just at a glance how different the slave cradles look from the square where all the big fancy stuff happens. And so I started writing descriptions in the book about, you know, walls made of clay brick as opposed to, you know, hewn stone that's been carved out of the mountains, and what the, you know, so that's sort of like, well, why is it different? So I started kind of going down the rabbit hole of like, why is this area different? It's because this was originally the outside and the exterior walls of the city before it outgrew itself. So these would be stone taken from mountains to the west, as we've drawn in the map. And then after that, the clay will be taken from the rivers, because that's the next thing that's around. Well, who's doing the digging? Okay, well, by this time it would have been elven slaves. Slaves from what region? Because they're different. You know, like, are these like from the coast, or are they from the forests? And just try not to just answer a question with a short answer like, oh, these are the elves, and that's it.
The love and attention you put into this is just outstanding. Like, it's crazy. Like, I love it.
Well, thanks. I mean, you guys are worth it, man. I found that readers like you guys who give a shit about that stuff, you do the deep dives, and you notice that stuff. Like, it's are you guys gamers at all?
Yes.
Do you guys know Elden Ring?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I know enough to stay away from it.
Baldur's Gate 3 is now my obsession.
Nice. Elden Ring, man. There's still people making lore videos about Elden Ring 2 years later, and it's because it holds up to that kind of scrutiny. You know, like there are other fantasy games that, you know, there's just not enough to talk about for that long. But the way that they world build for that story, like you can just, the closer you look, the more you find things, and it's not spelled out. Like those things, the world is not there because we're there looking at it. Like, it has the sense that it was there before. We just happened to be lucky enough to be seeing it. You know, and I don't know. I wanted it to be in a world, in the fantasy literature world that's, you know, that's built on the shoulders of people like Tolkien and Ursula K. Le Guin and C.S. Lewis, and then later George R. R. Martin and, you know, Sanderson. These people have built entire worlds and systems of, like, entire magic systems and you know, languages, like built their entire worlds upon the language, and or like a Dark Mirror version of European history, and like such depth. I couldn't bring myself to do the bullshitty version of that thing. You know, I really wanted it to hold up to the scrutiny of fantasy readers who are just the best fans.
When I've recommended this to friends, I've said it's Tolkien meets Lovecraft with a little bit of Cronenberg.
Oh, that's a cool way to put it. I've described it in a similar way. I said something about like Cronenberg's Lord of the Rings.
Has there been anything
Robert E. Howard in there?
Has there anything Ricardo has like done from your script that even you saw his art and you were like, okay, wow, that was not what I was picturing?
Oh yes. The clearest example, well, actually the one that I've talked about before is in issue 1, in which there's a when you see the palace burning, there's a statue of a woman in armor on the front steps, and she has a sword and
flipped right to it.
a shield and spear.
I see it. I got it.
Yeah, she is. Yeah. The thing is, one of the important differences between the different cultures is that Tirgalad, where they're living, is based on mostly on the culture of the rivermen to the north, and they are a fiercely patriarchal society where women are kind of just not important, not treated as important. Their names are not recorded after their death, or even during their lifetime. Like they're the son of the daughter of whoever, or the wife of whoever, and that's kind of important because the Elva are not that way, and we see, Vaco Almun, the ferryman king, who is a woman, and she's, it's not like it's not ferryman queen. She is the ferryman king. She's as badass as anyone, more badass than anyone in that culture. That's not something you would have seen in Tirgalad. So seeing this woman on the front steps kind of didn't make sense for the culture. And I had not mentioned anything about a statue, but it looks dope. And it kind of, rather than just say, no, that's not supposed to be there, it needs to be a man or nothing, I don't know, it just felt like the wrong decision. So I was like, okay, well, let's make it make sense. Like, why would maybe there's like this Joan of Arc type character where she just, stepped outside her limitations and became this amazing hero. And that sort of, that laid the groundwork for Q Lee, Queen of Rivers, who was this heroine of the North, who was, just property of her dad. Her dad never came back from war. His douchebag son became his heir. And so then she became his property. And so rather than be raped, she kills him and runs away. And she runs to the south. And it kind of sets off these two different, she becomes this amazing leader and rebel general, basically, that just commands respect from all cultures. She becomes an Elva, which had not happened before. And it became this, it seeded all this lore that became just fundamental in the story going forward. And it's just because Ricardo was kind of fucked up, and I was so grateful that it happened that way. And I will never forget how that played out. So anytime something comes out, to this day, anytime something comes out on a page, even if it's not supposed to be there, even if there's some reason why it might not make sense, unless it's just really, truly a broken thing that just will not work, like a dead character that's suddenly alive, I'll almost always try to make it work because it just makes the storytelling more complicated and beautiful and interesting. I mean, Q Lee, Queen of Rivers, is almost like an echo of Cyanth, of the Queen that we see in the, like her mastery of the Ursulon, and not even mastery, her relationship with them, really.
Gray and Shadow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I don't know. That was an example when Ricardo just really shaped the book, just by drawing a beautiful picture that had no place being there.
My friend Sid, who's in the comment here, I highlighted. I just gave her Last God to read this week, and she's already in love with Siuli.
Cool. I'm glad to hear
she
that.
read the prose. So I promised I wasn't going to spend a lifetime on Last God. Ryan, do you have anything you want to ask?
Yeah, just because it just came up, but talking about how getting your art back from an artist as a new creator myself, that's got to be like the coolest damn part of the whole process. Like, I was not really prepared for the feeling when you open up your email inbox and there's just an interpretation of the stuff you put down on paper as viewed through the lens of somebody else's brain, and it kind of solidifies and crystallizes the whole thing and makes it real. So I can't imagine what that would be like coming from Federici, somebody of that caliber. And it is a weird feeling to have to respond to that email and be like, hey, this is not exactly the way it's supposed to be. So I'm going to take that advice actually moving forward in hopefully in my career and try and adapt that way to things that aren't exactly the way I wanted.
Man, it's so important to remember that you're collaborators and that they don't work for you. You know, you work together. I can't stress that enough. There have been times when, I mean, sometimes there's when you see a corner being cut in a way as a time-saving measure. Sometimes you just have to, man, because there's a book's got to come out every month. So sometimes there are things that happen for the sake of time, or just being more realistic, or because you've asked for something impractical without knowing it. So there are times when you have to make allowances, but even without that, and being taken into account, you just have to show them respect. It's anytime you're working with an art team, it's just the most important thing. Brian Michael Bendis is a friend, and he's obsessed with like stand up and improv, and he talks about that. He talks about being a yes and kind of collaborator rather than a no but.
He does. I got words for pictures right here, man. That's been read several times. Yep.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like we were on a panel, and he talked about the yes and thing quite a lot. Even if somebody next to you does something that you think is complete horseshit, you've got to build on it and make it work because it's a collaboration. Not that I shouldn't have chosen those exact words. Not because I don't, I do not often find myself in that position. Usually the artists are doing amazing work, but even if it's not what you expected, just try to find a way to make it work. Now if it's different when they're giving you thumbnails. Very often when you write a script and then the art comes back to you, usually in the first round, it's coming back to you as thumbnails. And that is a good time to actually give notes. If something comes back and it's, and there's something like if the page is too crowded, or there's a perspective that just doesn't work or something, whether it be because the artist needs a little help on their layouts or it's because you made a mistake, like that's a time to work with them and be like, usually the notes that I give based on layouts are for myself. Like a thing will come back and is usually too full, or what's another thing? Every now and then I'll make a dumb mistake, like I'll describe something that is inherently a horizontal kind of thing, and there's no room for it to be laid out horizontally. So they'll find a way to change something meaningful so that it'll fit more vertically. That kind of thing. Just look at everything that they've done, and now you're working together to try to make the best comic page you can. So use those thumbnails that they send you, because those are just like quick kindergarten sketches that they can revise very quickly and easily. So at that point, be like, okay, I have done you a disservice. I'm going to change these two panels so that you're getting the space you need for this other thing. Or now that I'm seeing it, I realize, these two panels can actually be one. That'll save you some space. Do whatever you can to help them. And if they find yourself giving notes to yourself rather than bossing them around, they'll feel that respect, and they'll bring their own A game as well.
Well, thank you. How did you originally discover Ricardo's work?
Oh, I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit, Tessa. Say it one more time.
How did you originally discover Ricardo's work?
So I did my first ever DC thing was an Aquaman annual.
Speaking her language.
Yeah. They had done back. I mean, I think they probably still do this. They ask DC. They ask you for when they're trying somebody out. They'll ask you for an inventory issue, which is often they'll do like basically a fake issue of something, and they'll pay you for it. They'll pay you for a script. They'll pay someone else to draw it, and they'll just have this issue in the can in case they ever, in case a creative team falls way behind, or there's a death in the family, or something happens, and they need an Aquaman issue on the shelf right then. They need an inventory issue in case that happens. So they asked me to do a 1 to 2 issue Aquaman story, and I did that. That ended up being used the following year that was when they were double shipping everything, and it was behind the scenes. It was a fucking nightmare to make that work. Like they were juggling like 3 creative teams at any given moment to put out, a title twice a month. So anyway, they were like, "Oh my God, we got an annual in 2 months. Like, what are we gonna do?" And the guy's like, "It's okay. We got these 2 issues of inventory from this one rando." And so they busted it out and used it. That was with Max Fumara and Dave Stewart, and it turned out beautifully. And I was so proud of Max's work on that book too. Max just crushed the art on that book. So after it had come out, it came out in trade like a few months later, and I was so stoked, and I was so proud of Max's artwork on that issue. I'm like, man, I can't wait to see this and compiled. So I got it out, and then the guy that was doing the monthly series was Ricardo. That was his first time, I think, at DC. I was like, what the fuck is this? It was just so, I've never seen anything like it. I was like, this is nuts how good this is. Like, it's like I'm looking at one of the Dutch masters that had just time traveled from Too Good for Comics.
True. That's exactly what I always say. Like, this man is too good to be working what he's working in right now.
It's nuts. It's so good. It's like right out of like Frazetta, So yeah, then I just kind of started looking out for him. And then when we were talking about Last God after that, my editor that I worked most closely with on that was Ariana Turturro, then Amadeo Turturro back then. And then later on, when they moved over to Vertigo and Black Label, we were talking about what to do. They brought up Ricardo's name, and it was just the obvious choice.
You guys seem to have a really great synergy working together too, just from Superman and this. Like when two creative creators like just seem to be locked in, and like the message and the project just shows the love put into it. And Last God, and definitely on Action Comics, when Ricardo took over for Daniel Sampier, like, of course, all the Warworld stuff just fit Ricardo's style of, oh, you want arena battles and creatures? I got it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he's born to do. He just loves that Conan shit. It was so perfect. Yeah, I love working with Ricardo. I love seeing Ricardo. Every time we get together, we embrace like long lost lovers. This has been way too long. I can't wait to work with them again. And we got to do a little Batman short too once. That was cool. Oh. But anytime they asked me to do anything with Ricardo, the answer is going to be yes. It was just a really great relationship.
Now I have to find this Batman thing. I had no idea.
Yeah, what was it?
They did a Gotham City Villains issue.
Oh, yes. Okay. I did love that. Okay.
It was a Ra's al Ghul issue, or just like an 8-pager or something.
That was beautiful.
Was it the One Bad Day?
Thanks.
No, it's just called Gotham City Villains. It's one of those 8-page anthology things. Yeah. Yeah,
it's an anthology. It's like a thick issue. And we did an 8-page Ra's al Ghul story.
I swear if it's
here, actually.
Wow, that's it. Yeah,
that was very handy.
There you go.
Look at that.
Oh,
yeah, the whole thing is about a chess game. It goes back and forth in time between the first time they play chess, and then one of them is called away, and then so the game is interrupted, and then years later they meet in combat in Gotham while they're trying to, these ninjas are blowing up a building or whatever. But you can tell that they're not just fighting the way Batman fights others. They're also debating which of them is right. And that kind of, the idea is that they're still playing the chess game, and that at the end of every meeting that they have in battle, one of them will find a little scrap of paper with the next chess move written on it. Then they go back to their lair and make the move in their lair, and they're slowly playing this game. And with the suggestion being that when they finally finish the game, they'll know who was right in the end. That comes from something that my dad and I did as a kid, actually, after my folks split up. Yeah, my folks split up, and I didn't see my dad for a very long time at any given stretch. And he would, oh man, my mom's gonna be pissed if she hears this show. But she Dad was with good reason. Dad was paranoid about Mom reading our letters, and so he would write these little letters to me in code as a way. I know this is super eccentric. My dad's super intense, but he would write these letters, and if I couldn't crack it, I wouldn't be able to read it.
Oh,
and so I would crack the code and read it, and at the end there would be a little chess move at the end. And I just kept a little chessboard set up in my room. Then I would write him back also in code and have a chess move of my own at the end, and he would make the move, and we'd play a game that would take, maybe sometimes almost a year.
It feels very Bruce and Damien.
Yeah, a little bit.
I like that. Bruce Wayne.
It felt like something that Bruce and Roz would do.
Yeah.
So so that was like my little love letter to chess. And in fact, the chess game that they're playing in that game is based on the actual moves of a real life game that was played by Paul Morphy a couple hundred years ago. It's my favorite chess player in history.
You have a favorite chess player. I get to officially call you a nerd. Wow.
Yeah, Paul Morphy. He would have cleaned Bobby Fischer's clock in his day. He was the man.
Oh, that's so exciting! I have to check him out.
He was incredible. He was an American attorney, and those old games are recorded, so you can go back and replay them. And half the time they make a move, and you're like, "What the fuck is this?" Like you don't even understand why they're doing something, and then you understand like several moves later what they were doing. It's just a great way to understand the game.
Your favorite chess player is from the 1800s.
Yeah,
that's so fascinating. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, those games are genius, and that particular game was with a nobleman somewhere, and it was just a brilliantly played game. And
you are a Renaissance man.
So I would send Ricardo these snapshots of what the board would look like at any given part, at that stage in the game,
Ooh,
and it's just it's partially in respect for the reader and partially in respect for Ricardo's talents. I mean, I really do want I want the reader to be able to look as closely as they care to at any given time and still have the illusion hold up no matter how close they look. And I don't want somebody to, I don't want to make some passing reference to, haha, you used the Re Lopez on me, I see. And then have somebody else be like, I know that doesn't mean anything. I want it all to make sense.
I have a question. Before you came on, I was talking to Ryan, and I noticed a little Easter egg at the beginning of when Superman gets on Warworld. Did you know you were getting Green Lantern when you mentioned the Emerald Knight versus the Radiant Dead, or was that just something you threw in there to circle back to later?
I threw it in to circle back to it later. I wanted to. It was a story. It was a story that I kind of halfway made up the story in my mind at that moment. I kind of just dreaming up things that we might do in the future. And I did not know that I was getting Green Lantern yet, but I did know that it was something that I wanted to do if I ever had the chance.
Ryan had Green Lantern War Journal as one of his top books of the year. And Ryan, I'm sure you got Green Lantern questions.
Yeah, I think also Hulk made that list too, unfortunately. Yeah. I really don't want to pick multiple books from the same person, but, sometimes you have to.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, War Journal, man. First of all, I'm loving like both Green Lantern books right now. Actually, I think you and Jeremy are doing really good work.
Thank you, man. Jeremy's a great collaborator too. We talk every week, and he's always a pleasure to talk to and work with.
That was actually going to be my question. Like, how do you guys clearly talk every week then? So
we do, yeah. Sometimes it'll be a week or two before we talk, but for the most part, it's pretty much every week, and we'll just talk about something that's coming up next year or now this year, or ways in which we can. Like, sometimes I'll ask permission to use a certain character because there are certain characters that are more in his purview than mine, or he'll ask me questions about Lord Premier Tharos and the ways that they might show up, or there are things that. Like Tharos is a character that I made up, and there are other characters that are more Hal-esque than John. Like somebody that I know is going to be coming into the book and on his side of the fence. So I don't want to step on anybody's toes. So we talk a good bit, and as far as just sharing toys, but also just planning things for this coming year.
Well, that's cool because I'm still like an issue behind or so. But as far as I remember, they're still relatively isolated from each other, right? These two titles, they haven't.
Yeah,
really...
yeah, they're not. Yeah, there's not like a Trinity thing happening right now, or excuse me, a Triangle era type thing happening yet. It's how can I say? Yeah, we're just trying to acknowledge the existence of the other book and the other characters, but at a certain point, there is going to come a time where they start to bleed over a little bit more.
Yeah, it's exciting.
There's a heartbreaking scene in that first issue where he creates a construct of his sister. Oh my God, for his mother. Oh, that broke me into so many pieces.
Oh man, it gets worse.
Oh,
sorry.
No.
Cool.
Sorry.
Can't wait.
Also, like, I'm loving the voice in the head is Kyle Rayner, but he's
the blind prophet from the Dark Crisis universe. Yeah, that was fun. I just love the look of that character, and I love Kyle, man. I mean, I can't really use Kyle because of some other stuff that's happening right now, but I love that version of Kyle, and it was just really, really fun. Actually, funny story. I was already kind of considering ways in which I could use that version of Kyle in my book, and then a cover was kind of put together. Like a cover prompt went to an artist to draw, in which Blind Prophet Kyle was very prominent, and that has not been my request.
Oh.
But it looked dope, and then it was done. So I was like, well, yes, and. So we're gonna find a way to make it work, and it's it did. I'm really glad it worked out that way. I really do like that character, and it's fun to see him interact with Shepard.
Shepard's interesting, especially how he keeps squawking, and before you knew who it was, and then you finally see him appear. It's like, oh, it's Kyle, my least favorite Lantern.
Sorry,
he is. I
hate
to say it. I've never liked Kyle.
That's all right. You're allowed.
John Stewart was the one I always gravitated to because he was the least loved.
So I was never into John Stewart because I always thought it was kind of boring, and I originally wasn't going to grab this title, and then I saw Phillip Kennedy Johnson was writing it, and I was like, all right, fine, I guess I'll read this. And I was like, of course, this is fucking amazing. Like,
shucks. Well, thanks, Tessa. That's kind of you to say. I do love that character. I mean, I grew up with Hal, but I did love Kyle too. I had the Emerald Twilight when I was a kid, and I really loved it. It was cool to see Hal in such a badass state. When he first got the crazy armor and everything, he wasn't entirely evil yet, ? He kind of was, I guess, but he was still awesome. And then Kyle showed up as this kind of plucky young dude who doesn't know anything yet, and I don't know, that was just fun. But I don't know, I have getting a chance to really get to know and love John has been really rewarding. And the cool thing about John, forgive me, you probably heard me say this somewhere else, but he's just the obvious Lantern. He's like the consummate Lantern, in a way that most of the others are kind of like the dark horse pick, where they have to prove why they're badass, or like the other Lanterns don't believe in them. They're like, what are you doing here? You don't really belong with us. And then they go on and prove themselves to be the GOAT. I mean, that's the Hal typical story, but I mean, Kyle was literally a dude in the alley. It was just like happened to me. It's like, oh, you'll do, I guess. And Jessica Cruz was chosen by like an anti-ring, like a thing that feeds on fear,
Hell yeah.
And she's had to learn how to do this thing from scratch. But they're all cool as shit in that way. I mean, that kind of makes them all cool. It gives them all a really cool origin story. But John is the one who was born to do it, and I thought there was an interesting story there too. I've known a lot of really great soldiers who are also have their own demons or are broken in their own way, and I thought there was a chance to show something like that, like tell a story like that.
So you've also had Hulk out now, which I love that we have the complete gothic horror and the body horror of the transformations. There's transformations I have never seen before done by your artist with their skin ripping like in the feet popping out.
Specifically for me, the transformations to Bruce, because usually you've seen many times the disgusting thing of him ripping out of his human flesh to become a monster, but this is really showing like how hard the fight is to become him, and it's grotesque, and I love it.
Thanks. Yeah, I knew I wanted the transformations to be a huge part of the visual element of the book. And Nick is just a godsend. Working with Nick is just an ideal collaboration,
I
especially on this
really loved
book.
your guest artist, Foreman.
Yeah, Travel Foreman,
Travel
the one you're
Travel
talking about
Foreman.
with when he turns back to Bruce. That's the travel page.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to show more of those too. Showing him get small again. When he gets big, the way we kind of have it set up is that he becomes Hulk from the inside out. So like things are like kind of bursting out of him. He's getting big on the inside before the outside can handle it. And then when he goes from Hulk to Bruce, he's getting small from the outside in. So like you'll see like ribs collapse or skull plates scrunch inside, and it's just awful stuff. And I don't think we've ever really thought about how awful and painful this would all be. And it's just begging for the John Carpenter kind of take on it.
That's exactly what I said. I was like, yeah, this is just like it's in The Thing. Like, ooh.
Exactly, yeah.
It also, like, I love it goes back to the old, like, 80s, 70s roots of Hulk, where he's just traveling around. It's gothic horror, kind of like Swamp Thing was for a while, where it was
exactly.
It was all like this urban horror.
Exactly, yeah. Like when it started, it was meant to be more of a monster book, like kind of almost in contrast to the kind of stuff that Marvel was doing back then. And then I don't know if it was the nature of there are other, there are legit scholars who could talk more to this, but it just seems like it kind of got pulled more into the usual Marvel style, whether it be because of the creators that were working on them or because of the way that the team ups or cameos worked out or what happened. But it started to feel more like a superhero book again over time. And then Immortal just did such a beautiful job of making it a true monster book again with that Cronenberg dark scientist kind of take, like where it's all like happening in shady laboratories and all that. And with this, I did want to take more of a Wrights and Swamp Thing, more kind of a take on it, where it feels more like a folk horror thing, where you're seeing he's facing monsters out of the bottoms of rivers or potter's fields or haunted houses or exorcisms gone wrong and that kind of stuff. So it's been really fun.
You brought up video games earlier, and there's multiple times where I'm reading this Hulk run, and it kind of reminds me of The Witcher 3 specifically.
Okay.
I don't know if that's anything you're familiar with, but you spend most of that game running around weird swamps and killing monsters that rise up out of the muck, and it just feels gross. And there's a lot of similarities there.
Yeah, I won't say that was really an influence exactly. I don't know why I couldn't get into those games. I don't know. I know they're amazing.
Too amazing.
But
yeah.
But the vibe is not unlike what you're talking about for sure. There's going to be other ones that are less swampy coming up. Like the one that's happening now is in the Texas desert. There's other ones coming up. Then what can I spoil here? You're going to see some stuff in New Orleans. You're going to see stuff on the Arizona border. Las Vegas. Yeah, I want the whole thing to be kind of just across the American South. I know Vegas is not considered the South really, but there's just a lot of creepy stuff in the southern half of America that I wanted to show. And if the book goes on forever and ever and ever, and we're starting to repeat ourselves, or like we feel like we might be, then we can maybe change up the region. But I just love the Southern Gothic nature. There's this great Hellboy story. Do you guys know The Crooked Man?
Yes.
God, I love that book. It's just intimidatingly great.
It's directly behind me.
Written, awesome. Yeah, I've got all those library editions. I can't get enough of those books. It was written by Mignola, but drawn by Corbin. And I love how it looks like the South. I love how stylized and creepy it is. I love just the Gothic fairy tale kind of nature of the story they're telling with witchcraft and possessed animals. And oh God, it's just incredible. That's, if there was one like true influence on my Hulk run, it would probably be Hellboy, The Crooked Man.
Richard Corbin, very underrated artist. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves. He's done a lot of great stuff, and
oh man, yeah.
When he starts talking about great artists, he doesn't get brought up.
A legit genius, yeah. He did a great Hellblazer story too. Hard Time, I think it was called.
Oh yes.
God, it's incredible.
So I know Tessa and I both became Superman converts from your run. I'm not a huge Superman fan, and your Action Comics run, made me love Superman again. And it's weird because my mom, she probably would have freaked out if she was still alive that I'm interviewing a Superman writer. So this is kind of cathartic for me getting to do that. But your Action Comics run really brought me back, and it was, you weren't trying to invent the wheel, but you were showing the best parts of why Superman is Superman. The heart and Daniel Sampier's art at the beginning is just luscious. Just the whole storyline, how it starts before you even get to Warworld. And also your cast of like characters that you have go to Warworld. Were there ones that you just loved writing more than others?
Well, thanks a ton for your kind words. Let's see. Man, I love writing Midnighter. I really do.
I really did figure that.
Yeah, it's fun writing Manchester Black too. But God, I don't know. They're also fun. I mean, I didn't choose that cast. That was the cast. So when I was writing Action Comics, Grant Morrison was writing Superman and the Authority.
Yes.
And it kind of didn't make sense that he would put together this team and not bring them with him to Warworld for this big mission. Like his reasons for making the team, since we've established that he's lost some power. There were some things that were crucial to Grant's run that I didn't really have the means to break. When I first read what Superman and the Authority was going to be, it read very much like an Elseworld story. But at some point, the editor was like, maybe it was Grant. Somebody said that they wanted that it was going to be in continuity. But Superman is older and weaker, and he's talking to this Authority team we've never seen before. And there were a lot of things that seemed very in contrast to modern continuity. But whatever, dude, it's Grant Morrison. I'm not going to tell Grant Morrison shit. So, like, okay, yes, and let's make it work. And so that's when I kind of, figured out that sly little trick to make it, So yeah, we established. I did that story where he fights the radioactive things from this other dimension, and he's losing his powers, and then we kind of don't circle back to it and kind of let the reader forget about it until later, and then we reveal on Warworld that he's been losing his powers this whole time, that he's relying on the Authority to kind of keep up appearances. And that was the way we kind of kept it all tied together. If it was completely up to me, if there were no Grant Morrison, and I was making up my own Authority team, I probably would have had a couple less characters, because there was a lot of characters up there, and I wanted them all to be there for a reason and all to get their own arc. So that story went on for a long time, in part because I really wanted every character to be up there for a reason and for no one to get wasted, because everybody that was up there was somebody's favorite. There's people who just love Enchantress, or who love Apollo and Midnighter, who love Manchester Black, and I wanted them all to get their due. So that was a little tricky, but it was also very worthwhile. And again, it's another example of yes-anding somebody else turning into a really great way to just kind of beautifully complicate the story.
Tessa, any questions? I know this is your favorite run.
Yeah, you made me fall in love with Superman.
Thanks.
I definitely was never a Superman hater. Like the original movie from the 70s is still one of my favorite movies, but outside of that, like I'd read some Superman for fun, but none of it like impacted me. And I was so sad when your Warworld saga was ending, but then you come out with Metallo, who is my favorite Superman villain, so I was so excited.
Dope, that's awesome.
But what made you choose to go into Metallo?
I don't know. Metallo's always been one of my favorites, and that was
cool
another one where he is cool as hell, and I've seen, I don't know, the same kind of thing that drew me to Mongol. I mean, he's supposed to be awesome, but I've also seen very one-dimensional takes of him.
Mm-hmm.
If there's anything that bugs me, it's a one-dimensional villain that's just evil just cause. That just always kind of bothers me. I want to know why they're doing what they're doing. Even the most evil person has their motives, or think they do.
I do have a question that someone sent in also. Someone was saying, just talking about how much they love the Superman World arc. I'm so bad at saying that. World arc. They're saying how amazing it was, and they're wondering if you got any inspiration from any of like the Dan Jurgens era Superman stuff.
My inspiration for the World stuff, honestly, mostly came from real world experiences that I'd had, actually. God, what can whenever I'm doing any kind of world building, like when I did it for The Last God, but also even on War World Saga, I did go back and read the Silmarillion again.
Wow.
I know Silmarillion, there's not a lot of Silmarillion in the War World Saga, just the way that they built that out. Because Warworld's not one of the things we reveal on Warworld that's not just a big metal ball with guns sticking out of it. Like, it's been there for eons and eons and eons, and it's got ties to the fourth world and all the way back to the first world, and it's one of 7 god aspects of the Chronos of the DC universe, and it's just
Olgrin.
Olgrin, god of gods, yeah. And it's meant to be this much bigger thing than we ever thought it was. It's not just a Death Star ripoff. So it felt like a good time to kind of dive into the Silmarillion again and just kind of remind myself where the bar is. So I was inspired by that. I was inspired by the works of Robert E. Howard.
Clearly.
Superman. Yeah, as far as Superman's voice, people ask me who I read for Superman's voice, and actually I don't often read a lot of Superman to get a sense of Superman's voice. I'll read a lot of Pulitzer Prize winning journalism.
Makes sense.
And try to find his voice from that. Like journalists, like Pulitzer Prize winning pieces of journalism that are written about socially conscious issues. The kinds of things that Clark would write, That's where I kind of find the voice for him, or like the speeches of MLK or FDR, or all the 3-letter greats. So sorry, I know this is a way bigger answer than you asked for, but that's those are the biggest influences I think on those stories. But as far as the reasons I was writing War World, it was more about my anti-human trafficking work that I've done. And that all kind of ties into the meaning of the chains, and that was really the basis for that whole thing.
That answer was so much more beautiful than anything I could have expected from anything from this interview. Oh my God.
We did have a question in the chat. I was curious to what villain were you excited to write but didn't have a chance to?
Oh man. Well, I'm still, without spoiling anything, I am still at DC, so there's still some cool shit coming. Someone else I would have liked to have written. Man, there's a certain kind of take on Darkseid that I want to see, and I understand that readers are like Darkseided to death right now, so this is not the time for Darkseid story. But eventually, I do want to do a Superman Darkseid book at some point, and it's because I have very strong feelings about Darkseid, about what he is, what he represents. Even calling Darkseid he feels like a disservice. Like, he's not just a guy sitting somewhere. He is an element. He's a force of nature. He is like the evil personification of the concept of like space-time, something that's bigger. It's not a guy you punch in the face.
I feel like I want you to stop talking. I feel like I could feel my heart rate just climbing, hearing you go on about this. This is like, that sounds so damn cool.
Yeah, I want it to be like that. Like I want Darkseid to be like that kind of thing, where just just superhumanly intimidating. Where it's like, how do you fight?
You hear his name, you tremble.
Yeah. How do you fight a concept like cellular decay, or the concept of rage, or the concept of like fighting him is like fighting a law of the universe. So
DC editors, if you're listening, let's make this happen. Come on.
They're here, I'm sure.
Yeah, of course. I love that you You just finished some of the best work that's ever touched Superman, and your first answer is, "Oh, there's another Superman idea I have." Like, you still have more depth for this character to go, and that's amazing.
Oh man, well thanks. It's yeah, I would happily write this. Writing Superman is the greatest honor. I mean, I never, it was never lost on me the honor that I had been given. I mean, if they asked me, if they had come to me, I mean, they asked me to do action. I didn't like get to just choose, but if I had just chosen, it would have been action. Like there's kind of this behind closed doors. There's this kind of conventional wisdom that says, you know, Batman sells more than Detective, sells more than Superman, sells more than action. Like the ones that actually have the character's name in the title,
Always.
for some reason, sell better than the one that doesn't, and that's for that exact reason. It's because the actual word is on the comic. And that's just kind of how people accept it to be. I guess I don't give a fuck about that the way that people are supposed to. I mean, action is action is the grandfather title that kind of led to everything else. And to write action comics is just the greatest of honors in this industry.
You've gotten to write the most important comic title in history. Like, that's it.
Yeah, I would have happily written that story for the rest of my life for free.
I mean the best Superman story I've read in 20 years, to be honest. Like,
thanks,
not
brother.
trying to fluff you up, like it really to
Still
bring
my
me
second
back.
favorite.
Really?
Well, that's very kind of you to say. I'm extremely proud of it, and I have.
Okay, Superman for All Seasons is not counting that as a regular title.
Yeah, that gets the. You came second, which is very, very, very hard to do. But this one hit me in the soul.
Superman for All
different way.
Seasons is a deeply beautiful story.
Correct.
That and All-Star Superman probably like in my top 5.
I'm only holding out because like I saw this giant Superman Warworld trade just came out like a month ago or so.
Oh, I bought 2 of them. I'm aware. Yeah.
I'm holding out for the absolute myself. I still have the singles in my short boxes. I'm good if I want to reread it, but I want an absolute Warworld hardcover someday.
Yeah.
Well, make some noise. I don't know when that'll be. I know the way that they come to those decisions are a little complicated. There's like an algorithm or something. So I don't know when the absolute will be coming, but I know that the trade
keep tweeting about it.
Yeah, exactly. But the trade's doing well for them, so we'll see.
Well, Tessa bought 2 of them.
I know. I mean, heard.
Technically, I bought like 8 of them because I'm a store. But
right.
My friend Gambit, he's a huge Lobo fan. He would like to know if you plan on writing Lobo in any of your titles.
Lobo is not one that ever spoke to me per se. That would be one that if they pitched it to me, it'd be like, we should do Lobo thing. I'd be like, cool, let's do this. But I'd have to kind of figure out my way into Lobo. Sometimes there's a character that when they ask me, what do you want to do? Or it's like, what do you think about this character? I'm like, fuck yes, let's do it. Other times it's something that I have to kind of find my way into the character. I just have to go back and read a ton of the work that's been written about them and to kind of find what I think makes them dope. And how to get my voice in there in a way that feels real and not fake.
What characters have you written so far that you were the most trepidatious to start with?
Let me think. Aquaman.
Fair.
Yeah, when they asked me to do it, I happened to be on tour. My day job is I play music with a military band, and I was on the West Coast with my band, and I was in LA, and Brian Cunningham, who at the time was the Justice League editor, was like, hey, would you want to really like Lessons of America? Would you want to do something for DC? I'm like, hell yeah. So we got together and had lunch, and he's like, yeah, I'd love to get something from you. And he told me about the inventory issue thing. And he said, so the books I'm editing right now are, let's see, I've got Flash, Hellblazer, Green Lantern, Aquaman, Green Lantern Corps, something. And I said, I've read every word that Hellblazer has ever spoken in a comic. Like, give me Hellblazer. And he said, actually, what I really need is Aquaman.
I'll give you this choice, but no.
Yeah, why'd you ask me? And so I was like, that sounds perfect. That's what I meant. Let's do that. And I didn't know Aquaman from shit. So I had to go back and read a ton of Aquaman. Last time I think I'd read Aquaman was like in the Super Friends days. So I went back and I read a ton of Aquaman. I read Jeff Johns' run was already out there by then, the trench stuff. So I read that. I read Sub Diego was really good. There were some other ones that I remember being really, really good. But I do really like that New 52 run was good.
So good.
So yeah, I just kind of found my way in Aquaman. I really love the parallels with the whole King Arthur mythology. But the thing that spoke to me the most is how whenever you see, this is not always, sometimes it's been done very effectively since that time too, by like Kelly Sue and others. But sometimes you see Atlantis as just this kind of nondescript underwater place with, big pointy penis towers and white guys wearing armor, speaking English, and they're just talking. Everyone's under the water and they're just talking. And there's just, sometimes it's just kind of ordinary. And I want to see architecture. I want to hear language. I want to see, armor design. I want to see different cultures within Atlantis. Because this Atlantis has got to be enormous, right? There's how many water breathers must there be down there? There's just no culture sometimes. And I wanted to show culture. So again, like another Silmarillion kind of situation where I wanted to kind of like do the deep dive on what Atlantis. When you go to Atlantis, God, have you guys ever been to Japan?
No.
It's like another planet. Sometimes you're looking around, it's like, this is so different. And that is another surface dwelling, right? Imagine going to Atlantis, where it's got to feel like another planet. And if it doesn't, I don't know. It's always a little disappointing when it doesn't feel as alien as it should, So that was my big way in on Aquaman. Like I wanted to see. It's all about the character and like the King Arthur myth, but it's also about just this guy torn between two worlds who have nothing in common. So I just wanted to make that contrast between the surface and the ocean much more stark.
So on your Action Comics run, in the Blue Earth storyline, there are a couple of moments that I love more than anything. The first is Superman having lunch on the girder with the ex-con.
Oh yeah.
And how it ends with him having that moment with his son in the annual. I really love that moment. And then also when Superman rescues, Tessa had posted the panel of it where Superman rescues the kid in the car and he's like, have Flash Dog. And he's like, nope, just keep that seatbelt on. And it's the wholesome Superman and just
it's like the radio Superman from like the 40s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's those
Champion
little character moments I love. I do. And also, like the Warworld saga, what's going on with the other Phalosians who took over as the Mongol? I can't remember the guy's name. The one who turned on Super. Yes. Like they appeared for a minute and then we're gone.
Sorry, you're talking about the ones who are in charge up there on Warworld Prime right now?
Yes, they appeared to the United Planets and were like, "Hey, you tried to kill us. We're back." Haha.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was just like a little F you on the way out the door. But Krillux is not gone forever.
Okay.
I shouldn't spoil anything, but I do have significant plans for Krillux for sure. So stay tuned this year. Regarding the Superman character moments, yeah, those are just crucial, man. It can't just be writing Superman carries a responsibility that writing almost any other comic doesn't carry to me. Now, it doesn't mean there's no responsibility for other books. There are, but they're different. When you're writing a Superman story, you're writing like a treatise about what the best of humanity should be, like about like what the potential of humanity is. So there have to be these moments where the reader feels inspired, and without it, like what are we doing this for? It can't just be punching robots. So yeah, those moments, like the moment I was trying to capture in that car scene with the little kid, the point of it was that I wanted him to, he had just done this visually astonishing thing, where he like just destroys the bad guy tank thing and then grabs the car falling over the edge and flies it back onto the car. Just a purely feel good moment, like Superman saving people while smiling, kind of a moment, and then puts him down. And he just opens the car and checks on kind of tugs on the kid's seatbelt in the back, like, everyone okay back here? And deflecting any kind of thanks. Like the kid tries to give him his toy, and he's like, no, you keep him. I think he'd really miss you. But say something you can do for me. Always wear your seatbelt like you did today. Those seatbelts did more to save you than anything I did. And just making the kids feel proud for saving themselves. He makes them feel like they did it, and like made them proud for doing the right thing, and just ensures that they'll do it again in the future. Like now those kids will always wear their seatbelt because of what he said right then. And that to me was kind of a callback to the Christopher Reeve Superman, where he's,
Yes.
he's like, I certainly hope this hasn't put you off flying, folks. It's the safest way to travel. That's a little PSA at the end, or when he's holding Lois in one arm and the helicopter in the other. He's like, I've got you.
Who's got you?
He's like, exactly. You've got me. Who's got you? And he gives it this little smile, but the smile is not like, yeah, I'm the man. It's like,
reassuring.
it's kind of funny. Like, yeah, like I'm your friend. Nothing's going to happen to you. It's not about him. It's about her. So yeah, I don't know. Those are the moments that make people love Superman. So I try to make sure there was some kind of a beat like that in every issue.
Yeah, I mean, the Metallo moment with his sister, when his sister's like, I'm a monster now, and Superman's watching it all unfold with Steel, and just it hits you. Like, it's just heartbreaking, because even Metallo is destroyed by this because he never wanted that for his sister.
Right.
And then Clark's huge speech about xenophobia, and Invaders talking to Nora Stone when he's interviewing her. Like, there's all of these cathartic moments in it that just make you stop and just take it all in.
Yeah. Well, thanks for saying that. It's, that was another one of the reasons why I really wanted to write Metallo. Like, I wanted to see who he is under all that. Like, I didn't want to see like another cackling, like Terminator story. I wanted to see who he is. Like, why is he this way? We got a taste of it from the Grant run. Like the origin that I showed of him is based on the Grant New 52 run, where he appears in that story. He's a soldier and volunteered for this super soldier thing that he did, and it all went wrong. And even in that story, you don't really learn who he is and things he cares about or what he's afraid of or his family or any of that stuff. It's just you see how he became the living robot, basically. But that's the version that I built upon, and I wanted to see a version like after I wrote that story. Somebody said something like, man, like everyone's turning all these bad guys into good guys. I'm like, dude, he's not a good guy. He's still a murderer. Like he kills plenty of people in this story. He's still a monster. He just knows it. And he's trying not to be. Like, he doesn't want to be. He still has this, he's a monster who has a sister that he loves. I'm sure we all know monsters either in our own lives or in the news who have something that they still care about, or this good thing that they still do. And I want to make him feel more real and more terrifying by actually making us kind of feel bad when he does something screwed up. So Metallo to me was just very ripe for that kind of treatment. Somebody that's just super awesome and cool and scary that we can invest the reader in even more, because there is all this to him that we don't know yet.
You're also taking this character who's like not really human anymore and forcibly showing us his humanity, which is, again, he is not a good guy, but he's human at his core, and humans have layers and they're shades of gray, and it's just forcibly showing us this monster as a person, and I love it.
Self-aware.
Exactly. I wanted him to be, tell the story about this kid who should have had this normal life and just been a normie like the rest of us, and had this gun shoved in his face. It's like, here, hide this, when he was a kid, and he's like an alcoholic. He's like, oh my God, what is this incredibly powerful thing? And he just became infatuated with it. And ever since then, he's just been chasing that gun. He's just been trying to become that gun until he literally does. Every nemesis should be the polar opposite of their hero in some way. I mean, Lex certainly is for obvious reasons. Darkseid is for obvious reasons. Mongol is because he's the opposite of the champion of the oppressed that Superman is described as in Action 1. If he's the champion of the oppressed, then his opposite is an intergalactic slaver. And that's what Mongol is. He's got this cult of slavery. Metallo is his opposite, from the perspective of the pictures that we've seen of Superman, where he's reaching out and destroying the handgun as it fires, or deflecting bullets to protect someone behind him, that kind of thing. There's all these images of Superman opposing a gun, and Metallo is that living gun, and that's how Metallo is his nemesis.
That was one of the things that the depth you brought to Mongol, showing kind of how he was raised, and how they talk about how kindness is a sign of weakness and cruelty there is no, like, the cruelty is constant. You're used to it. And even showing the young Mongol growing up and his mother like saying, "You tried to feed me, like, you weak boy," and beating him.
Yeah, exactly. Like you see Clark. Yeah, on Warworld, you're taught that kindness is cruelty because it makes you weak and liable to die, and cruelty is the kindest thing because it makes you strong and hard and allows you to survive. So that's the best way to that's how you live up there. So that's considered the honorable thing, is to be cruel. And Mongols personifies all that stuff. And the thing with the idea of showing them with their mothers at a young age was Cy Spurrier's idea. Cy wrote the Clark chapters, and Cy's great. Cy and I are dear friends, and there's all these great father stories, and the idea of having a mother story here, because I needed to anyway, because I really wanted to show more of the Warzone females, because that culture also is so patriarchal. I wanted to see what the women look like. We almost never see them. So showing Clark as he makes a decision, Clark on Earth making a decision that kind of suggests he's on his way to being like anyone else, like using his powers in kind of a petty way to get back at a bully. And his mom is there to course correct him and help him become exceptional. And then on Warworld, we see Mongol actually veering towards compassion. And his mother, kicks his head in to make sure that he becomes as cruel as he needs to be to survive. And they both save their sons in that way. So that was just a fun premise for the annual. Listen, I am at 3%, so we should probably have last thoughts.
Yeah.
So sorry.
No, honestly, thank you for coming on. I appreciate you getting through the blackout and doing this.
Of course. We probably got time for one more if you want.
We can throw it in your court and just any specific things you want to promote.
Yes.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I'm doing Green Lantern War Journal ongoing still.
Next week it's out.
Yeah, exactly. Number 5 is about to hit. You're going to see a scene that's going to make that first one feel like nothing with the mom. Sorry.
I'm so excited for you to hurt me.
I'm excited about it. It's a great book. Montos is doing Lord's work. Montos is just so great. Yes. I love working with Montos. Anyway, so yeah, Green Lantern War Journal is going strong. Incredible Hulk number 8 comes out soon as well.
Is it hard for you to juggle all these different stories at once?
I don't know, not really. Usually, I mean, I'm usually writing them one at a time, and even when I'm not, once you're in the script, you're kind of in the zone, and it's okay. I think it's not as hard as you might think. Let's see. I'm writing a creator-owned story right now. I do have some more DC and Marvel work coming up that are too early to announce. So big things coming from DC and Marvel still, but there's also a creator-owned coming out later this year that I'm over the moon to show you. So stay tuned.
And then what social media platforms are you on so people can follow you to keep up with all the work you're about to put out?
I'm most places at Phillip K. Johnson, 2 L's in Phillip. I'm on Facebook under my full name. I have a website, phillipkennedyjohnson.com. I think that's about it. I'm on, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Twitter's kind of
yeah. You're on Threads?
Ship rat situation. I'm on Threads. I'm on Blue Sky. All the Twitter survivors are out there still. So it was great to meet you guys. Thanks so much for having me on here.
Thank you so much for making the time to come on, and I hope your power comes on soon.
Thanks. Yeah, me too. I got to finish the script tonight. There's my ass.
Come on. But I hope you had fun Lego building beforehand with your son.
I did. Thanks. That was great.
Thank you so much, Phillip.
Great. And it was great having you all. And
look forward to reading your next works.
Thanks, man. You too. Take care.
Have a great night.
Have a great night. Thank you.
Ryan, congrats on the new book, man. I'm stoked about it.
Thank you for the tips. I appreciate that.
It's a huge accomplishment. Making that first one is hard as hell. So huge congrats.
2 weeks out. Thank you.
Yeah, man. All right, take care, guys.
All right, take care. Thank you. That was Phillip K. Johnson.
What a classy man.
That's what he looks like.
I mean, what a great storyteller, even in the process. Thank you, everybody who came out to listen to us chat with him. And my God, like just hearing him talk about Last God. And I kept my promise. I did not dwell on it too long.
They're pretty good.
Yeah. So like definitely go check out his stuff. Go to your LCS if there's something you heard about tonight that you want to check out. Last God only out in hardcover.
And you can get either the Last God or the Fellspyre Chronicles Book 1. They come in both.
Oh yeah. They
Annoying.
I don't know why they're double.
Because they changed it. So the first version is Last of God, which is what you have, and now they only print it over Fellspyre Book 1.
But they tease you saying Book 1 when we don't have it.
Which implies to me there's more coming.
It does,
we'll
heavily.
Yeah,
Heavily.
And guess what? Ryan and I are going to have to talk to him again when that's coming.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. So what's going on? Like most of the characters are dead. Is this a prequel?
I don't care what it is. I don't care. I'm there.
We're at the point. I buy anything with Phillip Kennedy Johnson's name on it. It doesn't matter.
Oh, that is
badass.
Awesome.
That's so sweet. What a
I also in Last God, there's that part where you find out what happened to her science old
I'm only halfway. I didn't get to read the whole thing again before we did this today. I forgot how heartbreaking it was. Oh, great.
And when she's like, I can't name this other one because that means I'm gonna care if it dies, I was like, oh. That is awesome that he named a character after you. Like, great interview. I'm glad it took 2 months, but we got it done. And he came on during a flood and the power outage in DC, which apparently is hitting everybody. And it's on its way up north, apparently, to your end.
Yeah, it's a mess here right now.
Yeah. Do you guys have anything else you want to talk about before we sign out? Besides,
buy everything by Phillip Kennedy Johnson. Like seriously, World Saga. I can't say it. Just came out in a trade. It is a little expensive for a trade, but it's thick, so like it's worth it. If you don't want to bite the bullet and go right to the expensive trade, DC app has everything, or you can find the back issues super easily. And now that it's a few months old, you can find them for like $1 or $2 each.
Thank you, Alexandra. One of the things I will say is if you guys are in the giving spirit, our friend Jennifer has a GoFundMe, Keep Jen Reading. She's still closing in on her goal for her cancer treatment and everything else. If you can't give, please share. It would mean the world to us. She's a dear friend. I know a lot of you are first-time viewers because sometimes we get to do cool shit like have Phillip on. And go pre-order or check with your store to get Ryan's book. It's got Ben Templesmith on art. And
that's the only cool thing about it.
Go find him with Comic Tom 101's channel weekly, bi-week, or every other day on the channel.
All of the above.
Yeah.
Not too much. I gotta be here more.
And Tessa, you can find her.
Tessa has a video coming out in a few days. She's almost done editing it. She's on like the last 7 minutes, which takes a long time because I'm dumb. But I have a new video coming out in a few days, and I'm very excited.
Were you working on that during Christmas too, after you got your computer, or are you still editing that same video?
Guys, what are you into?
Smooth transition there. That was good. That's the show.
But I'll probably be posting some more shorts because for some reason I get more interaction with those. Follow us on Instagram. I'm still on X for some reason. I'm more active on Threads lately. And if you want to talk comics with us at any point or ask for recommendations, go ahead and hit us up. We're all pretty varied in what we read. Don't ask me about Tom King's Batman title because
Well, you can ask me about Tom King's Batman title.
Yeah, if you want wrong information about it, you can ask Dan. But
I will say
got you
I
covered.
love The Penguin right now by him.
Dude, it's one of my favorite books of the year, honestly.
go read that. Low key,
And-
last minute recommendation.
Ryan, do you want to start a Tom King Batman club? We can be a little fan club.
Sure.
Yeah.
And Wonder Woman with Daniel Sampier's art on it has been brilliant.
Mhm.
Yes.
Again, just Tom King writing the main Batman title I didn't love.
Yeah, but that's like fucking 8 years ago or something at this point.
Yeah, I still got
Everyone's
PTSD.
still on Tom King Batman. He's won Eisner since then. You know, like we can.
When you said 8 years, I thought you were being facetious, but it did start in 2016, and we are in 2024.
Also, check out
time.
Human Target, which was a.
I actually haven't read the last 2 issues yet, but my favorite Tom King work.
And if you like horror, All Eight Eyes. Ryan and I approved of that one.
Another
If you
good
like
one.
spider creatures,
I do like that.
Or if you don't like them and you like being scared by them, you know, and watch them get stabbed a lot, you know.
True,
I'm
yes.
also liking the AWA title The Madness by J. Michael Straczynski, which is kind of surprising me that I'm loving it.
It's better than I thought it would be, but I'm a huge fan of the Ribbon Queen from AWA right now. That is on my.
I'm behind
book
on
of the
that.
year. That's one of my books of the year.
Mad
nowhere.
Cave, the Devil Wears His
The Devil
Face.
Wears oh my god, the art on that's so good. Mad
Fucking
Cave is
great.
killing it. Skeeters
Lately-
is fun. Under the Influence is good. It just finished, but Spit into the Wind is good. Mad Cave is killing it.
And my recommendation still from last year, Step by Bloody Step.
Oh, Cy Spurrier, speaking of.
Yes. If you can read a book, if you don't mind a book that has no words.
You also don't mind being completely confused the entire time and having no idea what's happening.
The ending was a little.
I appreciated how it came full circle. Other than that, I did not like that book. It was a big disappointment for me. So we can.
Well, other Cy Spurrier
Agreed.
stuff, check out The Rush. You can
Yes.
check out the backups in Detective Comics. They're really good. Got plenty of other Cy Spurrier goodness. And you can check out the Hellblazer run that's about to start.
And
Jump
just
right
go
on.
check out
Terrific
anything by
writer.
Dan Waters lately, especially his backups in the Rom V run of Detective Comics, which I am loving right now, especially with that Jason Sean Alexander art in the main.
Oh my god, the Casper Wingard art too. And
The
Dan's
Casper
art
Wingard in the
is so
backups,
good.
yes.
Oh my god.
Ryan's just like.
Good.
Rare Flavors. Rare Flavors
Flavors
by
is
Ron
also
V,
good.
also really digging.
All right, well, the video I have coming out is my favorite reads of 2023, so I don't want to actually spoil all of them.
And at some point, we'll probably do another show at some juncture. I'm probably going to be going to MegaCon at the end of the month for at least a day.
I might.
Whatever.
We're doing a whole bunch of Crashdown stuff down there, so I will be
It's gonna
there.
be Ryan's birthday, so I'm gonna
It'll
try to
also
go
be my
down to have
birthday.
dinner with him at least.
Oh, it's my birthday that week too, 31st.
Hey, what did you say? 31st?
Yeah, I'm off that week.
You're 2 days, and maybe also years older than me.
Well,
our birthdays are 2 days apart, but also I assume several years are in there.
Let's not talk about it. It was already a point of conversation when we were at my holiday party at work.
How old are all of us? Let's do that question. We should have asked Philip. That's the first question. Let us know ages.
But thank you everybody for watching. I really appreciate it, and thank you all for Brian for joining us. I know like it was real hard to get you to come on. You're like, you're talking to one of my favorite authors? Okay, hold on, let me clear my schedule.
It wasn't hard in any way. No,
No.
not difficult. I'm glad you asked me. I'm thankful to be here. I'll come back whenever if you want.
Don't invite yourself, Ryan. It's rude.
Just
Opening
the
just
door.
walk through my front door like Gambit did.
That's right. That was a good show.
Yeah, but Ryan doesn't school as Gambit, and we know.
I'm not.
Yeah.
That mustache.
It's true. Honestly, though,
That's why I said it. I only speak truth.
I think he'll be there tattooing at MegaCon. I think he
Are you
has a
gonna
booth
tattoo?
there. Just get a
Don't tell
Crashdown
Tom.
tattoo.
Yeah, don't tell Tom. He'll get one.
Have to set up ahead of time. So I think we've all talked about what we have coming on. I think Carlito said he's coming down to Orlando for MegaCon. So hide your booze, hide your kids.
Don't have either, so we're good.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, I got that week off. I'm flying down. I was like, are you? Like, where are you staying?
that's why I think I'll just come down for one night. I'll be like, I don't want to stay anywhere. I'll just come down, go to like dinner and stuff like that, and then fly back up a few hours later.
That's awful.
Yeah, I don't know if it's gonna be
Favorite.
Friday or Saturday going there, but I told Sean Puff Comics that I was gonna try and meet up with everybody.
Nice.
I'll be whatever the second is if I go.
Friday is the second. Whatevs, I'll figure it out. Just let me know when you are, and I'll try and meet up with all of you.
I will most likely be far too busy to do any damn thing. I'm very pre-stressed already. Looking
It's
forward
one
to
of
it.
the
Sally,
most
doing your stressed squinty eyes.
It's one of the most low-key shows.
Yeah, but when you're dropping a book and doing signings and hustling and running all over the place, I'm gonna be.
Unless you're doing like live
Easy.
Whatnot shows there on the show, the work floor too. Like
I
they
think
were
that's
doing
like the
last
one thing
year.
we won't be doing. We'll be doing all our own.
Oh, good,
because
because the tech always fails every year.
That's what I heard. I heard that show specifically has very poor Wi-Fi situation going on.
Does any show have a good Wi-Fi situation?
It's got a lot of poor everything. Like, so your location, well, Whatnot's probably going to be having your location set, so you'll probably have a prime spot maybe. But usually if you're in Artist Alley, you're like way, like almost in another room.
As long as there's AC, that's all I care about. Keep me
Yeah,
cold.
you'll just have cosplayers stopping in front of your table every 2 minutes, taking photos and blocking the path.
Oh no, we have to look at cosplayers. How horrible.
Oh no, I've seen artists get like super mad because they sat there for like a long time. Like, but I mean, kind of if you're there hustling, trying to make money too from sketches and stuff, I get it.
Well, maybe we'll see people at MegaCon.
Maybe not. See, I just probably gonna have an eventful week because I won't be at work with all my lovely friends at work. But all right, we're gonna end this. Good night, so long, farewell, Evita, say goodbye.